Are you a fan of pro wrestling, comedy, and combat sports? Then we have the podcast for you because we cover that and much, much more.
Do you like to debate with your friends? Do we have the perfect segment for you? It's the 531, where we take any given subject, break it down to a top 5. From there, we debate it down to 3, and then into that number 1 spot.
If you want to get a hold of us, find us on our social medias. Search Working Fans Podcast on any major social media platform. And if you want to find the podcast, search for us on any major podcast platform, as well as YouTube.
Working Fans Podcast. We put in the work so you don't have to.
Welcome back for Working Fans Presents Horror Business Episode 5, where today we will be covering A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. This movie runs an hour and 27 minutes. It's from 1985, so it comes out a year after the original. It's directed by Jack Shoulder, also rated R. Wes Craven did stay on as a writer. He just wrote characters, it says. Now, you could tell that this movie was making money for the studio because the budget went up from $1,800,000 to it is $3 million on Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, estimated. Its opening weekend did $2,865,475. And it opened November 3rd, 1985. This grossed $29,999,213, both in the US and Canada and worldwide. Now, the idea of this movie is a new family moves into the house on Elm Street, and before long, the son is having nightmares about deceased child murderer Freddy Krueger. This time, Freddy attempts to possess a teenage boy to cause havoc in the real world and can only be overcome if the boy's sweetheart can master her fear. So it's a sequel of sorts, but it's just a new family moving into the house. And I enjoyed the idea of, is it kind of like a haunted house or possession type thing? So a different almost type of scary movie, I thought. And it felt like a sequel, but I'm going to say not a true sequel because we will have that for another movie coming up in this. But major actors in the movie, Robert Englund comes back as Fred Krueger. Oh, let's put up that graphic. So this is A Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Still getting the format of this down. And Mark Patton plays Jesse Walsh, the lead male in this. Kim Myers plays Lisa Weber. Robert Russler plays Ron Grady. Clu Gulager is Mr. Walsh. Hope Lang is Mrs. Walsh. And Marshall Bell is Coach Snyder. You can see I practiced those names before I read them. This got an IMDb rating of 5.4 out of 10. And I like the first one more. This one wasn't bad. Like, as it was going on, I was trying to get into it because one of the problems I had with the series is in the story, Fred Krueger is killed in a factory. That's where the family burns him. But in the first movie, the mom goes down to like a old boiler or like furnace to pull out the hidden glove. And then it would seem that Fred is attached to the house, maybe. So that part was kind of like trying to figure out where the story's going. And then in the first one, he just dealt with terrorizing people in their dreams. And now he's trying to make it out into the real world. So it makes sense story-wise, but it's also a little confusing. Now, before we get to the fun facts at the end of this, some thoughts I had on this. I spent like I said, a bit trying to figure out what the movie was. Is it Freddy Krueger trying to possess somebody to get kills? Or is it more of a haunted house where he's attached to the house and anybody that moves in there gets the trouble of it? That's in this one, it's kind of that because, oh, you're the family that moved into that house where that thing happened. Like I said, starts in dreams, then goes to the real life. The male spin on the protagonist is interesting. They have not jumped the shark on using Freddy yet. He's still used sparingly in the movie. I like the first one a little bit better than this, like I said before. And Mark Patton looks like Michael J. Fox's stunt double. Now, like we did in the first episode, we're going to get to our reads in the middle here before we drop the fun facts on you that I found on IMDb. As always, these reviews are brought to you by the Pro Wrestling Vault Volume 1 and Lance by Chance, written by Vinny Berry, available at WrestleVille.com. And all the following books that I'm about to list off here are available on Amazon.com, including Super Vows and Pas de Deux, written by friend of the show, Kevin Kelton. I'll Be Here All Week, and All That's Left, written by Ward Anderson, as well as his comedy special. Blood and Fire, the unbelievable real-life story of wrestling's original Sheik, written by Brian R. Solomon. How Not to Suck at Comedy, written by Pat Oates. Matt Memories, written by John Arezzi and Greg Oliver. The Great People, over at Connecticut People Records. And our wrestling commentary home of New Heights Wrestling. Go check out New Heights Wrestling on their YouTube page. They're just putting up the newest round of footage we did, and it might be our best calls as of late. And hopefully we'll be getting some footage from the Fright Nights that are going on down in Florida at the moment. Now, fun facts about the movie. In the opening sequence, the bus driver is Robert Englund without the makeup. This is the only Nightmare film in which the lead character is male, and it was an interesting twist on it. I thought it was interesting. I enjoyed it. It doesn't make it any different whether Freddy's going after like a male lead or a female lead, because there's always going to be a group of kids that are going to be hunted down. I thought this guy held down the role well. Now, New Line Cinema originally didn't ask Robert Englund to return as Freddy Krueger and refused to give him a pay raise. A stuntman was cast as Freddy at the start of production. And after 2 weeks of filming, Robert Shea, the producer, realized this was a terrible lapse in judgment, fired the stuntman, hired Englund, and met his demands. And it's kind of weird to think that on the second Freddy movie, they would have gone with a separate actor to play Freddy. But sometimes you might not know how big the movie gets. You might think you can put anybody in the makeup and, lower your cost. But Englund just did that role so well and came to mean so much that I'm glad they didn't switch it up from there. Now, makeup effects artist Kevin Yeager replaced David B. Miller, who designed the Freddy makeup for the original. Yeager only had a few pictures in the original film as reference, so he redesigned Freddy's look. Studying pictures of burn victims, he made changes to Freddy's look, namely by bringing out the facial bones. He said his intent was to make Freddy look like a male witch and gave Freddy red and amber eyes to make him look more demonic looking, which really helped with it because I think you needed to make Freddy scarier, because as the series would go on, they'd make him funny with his kills, which isn't bad, But for a horror movie lead, you want him to be scary. And in these early films, I would say he was. Now, Michael J. Fox was considered for the role of Jesse Walsh, but was unable due to his commitments to Back to the Future, which filmed in 85, as well as Teen Wolf. So if Michael J. Fox was in this movie, think about it. He would have been in Teen Wolf, Back to the Future, and A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, all in the same year. This guy had a monstrous movie career as it was, but could it have brought this movie to the next level? Who knows? Now, rather than continue the story of the first film, Soul Survivor Nancy, this movie focuses on the new residents of Nancy's old Elm Street house, joining a grand tradition of horror sequels which ignore the survivors of the prior installment for what would appear to be cost-controlled reasons. Langenkamp told the Never Sleep Again documentary that she was never actually offered a chance to do the movie, and the film's line producer couldn't recall if there was ever actually been any internal discussions at New Line about bringing her back. It's been hypothesized that the concept of Freddy possessing someone in the real world versus killing them in dreams, and that was so different from the idea of the original that bringing Nancy back wouldn't have made sense. And I can see that, but you brought her back for so many other ones. So I feel like what they wanted to do with Freddy is what they did with Nancy in this one. And this guy filled a good hole. Like, I would recommend this movie, but I would recommend it saying, check the first one out first and then watch this. It's not a bad movie, but the first one was so good that it's kind of like, why make changes to it? Like, if you want to make changes, do it further down the road. And tomorrow we're going to get into A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, which that is Dream Warriors. And we will talk about the changes the series made then and kind of where they might have diverged and where they might have gotten back on track. So thank you for joining us for Horror Business episode 5, and we will see you again tomorrow.